Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Self-Publishing Tips and Tricks Show, a series designed to give you insight into the world of self-publishing and marketing your books. I'm Shannon, writing under the pen name of SD Houston, and today we're doing a book review for the October 15th episode. My co-host, Ben Pick, and I are here along with a couple of guests, and we're going to informally talk about Linda Stirling's book, How to Get Book Reviews and Endorsements, and what we learned for our own author journeys. Before our guests introduce themselves and we talk about the book, I'll let Ben introduce himself and talk about any news or points of interest that he wants to mention.
Yeah, I don't have anything much going on. This is the middle of September when we're recording this. So I am sending my third book, my manuscript, off to a professional editor at the end of next week. But aside from that, every Monday night, 7 p.m. Eastern time, I give questionable writing advice through Running Metaphors on Running to Write.
All right, yeah. So this is going to be coming out a month from the time that we are recording it. I am assuming at this point that I am fulfilling most of my Kickstarter. That's where I had hoped to be at this point, but I've had a few issues with print files trying to get my stuff approved through Ingram Spark. And although they are approving it, but when it comes back, they're e-proof, it's all messed up. And I don't know why, because I am using Atticus, which is a professional software program to format your books. And it's not working. Although Atticus has been the customer service there is awesome. They've been working with me trying to figure out how we can make it better and get it set up where Ingram, doesn't have it messed up. But Ingram, I put a support support ticket in, and I still haven't heard anything from them. So we'll see how that's going. Depending on how that all works out, I still have to get a copy of the book to my house so I can make sure it looks good before I just order it and send it to the Kickstarter backers. And that by itself, just getting the proof to your house, can take like 2 weeks. So yeah, it seems like it's going to kind of push stuff off a little bit for my Kickstarter, but I'm getting there, I'm making it. And I still run weekly writing sprints. And actually, when this comes out October 15th, I'll be a week out from pretty much going to an almost everyday schedule of writing sprints, ramping up for NaNoWriMo in November, because I'm hoping to get the next draft done of my next book. That's my goal anyways. All right, so now let's introduce our guests. Well, they'll introduce themselves. And so you guys, please tell us who you are and anything you'd like to share for others to find out more about you. Like, are you working on anything, or do you have something upcoming? And start with Laura.
All right, I am Laura Nettles. I have written a horror collection called Tiny Shivers. There's 101 stories in there, from gothic to cosmic to psychological to supernatural horror. Yeah, 30 of my pieces have already been published in magazines and anthologies.
Nice.
So that's great fun. It is available for signed editions on my Ko-fi and Amazon for all the regular stuff. And I stream every other Thursday for writing sprints at 7 p.m. Eastern. So come get some words in. It'll be great fun.
And like me, that's also on YouTube. I forgot to clarify that, because we do have audiences who are not on YouTube. So for those who would like some of those writing sprints, they're great to come just hang out and dedicated time to writing and then talking about our works. It's always nice to have that community feeling.
Yeah.
And I would say go get that book. I have that book from Laura Nettles. I got the signed copy too, and I've loved reading through it. I still haven't got through all of it, but I've read most of it now. So if you like horror, you're going to like it.
Hi, my name is Bethany Votaw. I have 2 short story collections out. One is Broken Wings and Buried Secrets. It's kind of like a bittersweet family secret type thing. And then my other one is Scribbles and Sprawls. It's just creepy and weird. And then I do have a novella that is a thriller with some fun stuff that I hope to announce in the next month. So we'll see what happens with that regarding the Trackerverse. I am on YouTube, but I rarely post. I mostly just hop around and hang out with more established and put together YouTubers like Shanon and Ben. So just excited to be here and talk about some books.
Yeah. And the novella is Tracker, because I don't think you mentioned the name until you said Trackerverse. But
Tracker.
But I also love that book. And I think I saw, didn't you have an Instagram post that said that you had a sequel coming out for it?
Yeah, I have a prequel and a sequel in the works. And that's kind of what I'm hoping to announce in the next month, depending on some of my betas, feedback, and edits and whatnot. When you look at something for so long and it starts to, not look like a book anymore. Yeah. So we're at that point.
I guess that point where I think I'm like the worst writer.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what was I thinking? But it's okay. We'll see what the next few weeks bring.
So if you have those links in the next few weeks before this goes live, definitely share it, and I'll put them in the show notes and description box for YouTube.
Thanks.
All right, now let's talk about Linda Stirling's book, which is How to Get Book Reviews and Endorsements. And this is part of her Author Income Strategies series. I picked this book up for us to read because I'm pretty sure I heard about it on a podcast. It's usually where I hear about books is on podcasts. I think especially those of us who are indie authors, we know that it's very important. And if you didn't know, if you're just starting out, it's very important to get book reviews for your book. And I think most of us think of this in terms of like book reviewers, people who have read the book and leave a review on the book more organically in a lot of ways, hopefully. There are strategies to get book reviews in other ways. And of course, this book covers more than just book reviews. So I'd like to start with a part of the excerpt from the book. books need to have reviews in order to sell. That no longer needs to feel like an insurmountable challenge. Before you publish, see how to get front cover endorsements, then acquire trade reviews and editorial reviews. You also want those crucial reader reviews to come in on an ongoing basis. Inside How to Get Book Reviews and Endorsements, you'll learn how to get endorsements, how to get trade reviews, how to get editorial reviews, how to get more reader reviews, the timing needed for endorsements in each kind of review, and how to approach endorsers and reviewers, including sample letters. Now, there's more to this excerpt, but I'm going to stop there. And I just want to talk about whether or not the book fulfilled the promise of this premise. And I would say it absolutely did. And I think that she did go into a lot of details with each of these different types of reviews and endorsements. And I did appreciate that she included a lot of samples of how you can reach out to people for these types of reviews. My generalized thoughts about the book is I think that this is a really good book to read, especially if you're just starting out. For me, I feel that most of the information I have learned over time of being part of author communities and researching and reading other things. But what I think I could say is the difference is I don't think I've ever seen like all this information in one location. Like I've seen about how to get endorsements, I've seen how to get trade reviews, but I've not seen all of this in one book to kind of lay it all out as a plan of action. And I really appreciate that. So what about you guys? What did you think about the book? Did it deliver on its promise? And what are your general thoughts about it?
I think it absolutely delivered. I put a few tabs in my copy and underlined some things. It was very nice to have actual sample letters of things to send to people and strategies on what people you can cold call for reviews versus what ones you need to have more of an organic relationship before you put in the request for a review, and just hammered home the notion, ask for reviews. Like you need to do it. So yeah, I thought it was very well put together, very easy to read, and a very quick read, but very thorough.
Yeah, I really liked it. I think it was a short, snappy read. This might be a book that, depending on your learning style, would be better as an ebook because there's a ton of links in there. So if you have like the capability to read your ebook on your computer, it's so convenient to be able to like hit a link, it'll pop up because she gives you so many examples of places to go to. It wasn't super genre specific, but also there was enough differentiation to, if you write romances, these might be better resources. If you write thrillers, these might be better resources. But overall, it was just like this giant checklist, and it was very humbling because I thought I was doing a decent job. And yeah, no, there's a lot of things I could be doing better.
Okay. I'm probably going to be more on the spicy side where yes, the book delivered. I feel like it is definitely tailored more towards people who don't have a lot of experience here, but those who don't have a lot of experience, almost every request or almost every suggestion and tip that's included costs considerable money. So, I mean, that's a problem universally where to get reviews, it costs money and there's, certain returns of investment, but there are also specific points, and we have plenty of time to discuss this, but there are specific points that were presented in this book that I outright disagree with because I've been not on a writing side, but on a professional standpoint, I've been on the receiving end of some of those things. And yeah, I think that if somebody follows through with all of the advice or even most of it, they'll one, be spending a lot of money, and two, be wasting a lot of time. There are some true gems in there, but they are few and far between. And everything in there will cost significant money that you might not necessarily get back in sales.
Okay. So I think I'm kind of in between the two camps. I do think overall it is helpful, but yeah, I do think that for those who have been doing this, you can probably pick out those things that might not be as useful for you because of cost or time. But but I think, sometimes what may work for one person may not work for another. So I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence. What I did appreciate was that it was all in one place, but, and that's what I mean by all in one place is that, she talks about 4 different types of reviews/endorsements that you can get. And I think most of us in the indie community, we think about getting reviews, we're thinking about more like just, plain book reviews from readers, the reader reviews, but there are other types. And I did want to talk about these real quick. These are, directly taken from her book, descriptions of these 4 different types. First are endorsements, which are used on the front cover or on the first page and on distributors' description pages like Amazon. You can also use them in ads. And these come from notable authors in your genre or experts if you're writing nonfiction. Then you have trade reviews. These come from places like Kirkus, Publishers Weekly, the New York Times, and there are a few others that she mentions. As a self-publisher, you won't be able to use all of these places though, and that she says that, and you'll have to pay for the review. And I would say I don't think you really pay for endorsements. Those are usually, you just reach out and see if they'll do an endorsement for you. When it comes to trade reviews, you are paying. This is a paid review, and it's one of the only acceptable paid reviews, 1-for-1, like you're paying to get that review that Amazon will accept. And then you have editorial reviews from bloggers or publications that publish reviews other than in a book review section, and you can pay for some of these reviews by bloggers as well. We've even talked to some people here on the podcast who have paid for like blog review tours or just tours, book tours, and those are usually bloggers who will review the book or say something about the book and push your book out, and those you have to pay for, but not necessarily. You don't have to pay for for all of these. You can reach out to people and see if they will do it without payment, but some will request payment. And then the last one, of course, are reader reviews, which are posted by those who purchase the book or have been given a copy of the book, which those can fall in the range of free or paid as well. So, alrighty, we'll move on to the first question I have here, which is, what were some of the most valuable insights, or just one if we want to move this along, that you've gained from how to get book reviews endorsements, and what stuck with you the most? And Ben, I'd like to get your thoughts, since you're like, this wasn't at all helpful. Was there anything helpful to you or valuable to you at all in this book?
Yeah, there were a bunch of specific resources that I wrote down. So Kindle book review is something I haven't tried before. Read Discovery, I'm a bit hesitant to try out, but Bookish Elf, Indie Reader, Goodreads giveaways. In fact, my wife was on the receiving end of a Goodreads giveaway. I don't know what she did to enter it in, but she won a free book doing something. So I don't have any of the details about that, but I do know that she got a free book out of Goodreads that is being shipped, or I guess it's probably an ebook, so she'll probably get it sooner. She's already gotten it. But that's something I definitely want to explore more, because that is very intriguing to me because of how widespread Goodreads is.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious to do a little more research and figure out how to get involved in that.
I think for me, one of the biggest takeaways I had was there's so many free things that you can be doing. And I think that's maybe like, because I understand where Ben's coming from. Like, some of these tips are so expensive, and it's like, realistically, there might be very little return on that investment. The algorithm for all of these, sellers are changing. Like right now they're saying like 15 Amazon reviews is like great, and Amazon will start promoting it. Well, yeah, for this week, I don't know what next week is going to bring type thing. But there are so many free things to do. Sorry, I'm on my phone because I took notes on it. I did this with my first book that I released, and I don't know why I forgot to do it with the other ones, but ending your book with mentioning that you're looking forward to hearing your readers' thoughts. It's such a simple back of the book page with like a link, a universal book link or whatever it is, but it's like that invitation of like, it's okay, I'd like to hear your thoughts, good and bad. And it was just like, I can't believe I did that for my first book, but I totally forgot to even like consider that for my other ones. So just like little reminders like that, and then getting in touch with Amazon's top reviewers. I didn't know that was a thing you could do. So I'm excited to explore that side of things. I'm also a little nervous because it's Amazon. Yeah. I thought those stuck out to me the most.
I liked the list of review sites that had what genres they specialized in and how much they cost, if they cost anything at all. I was going through ones that would apply to my book that's out and trying to see what do they have already and how much would it cost, how do you contact them, type of thing. And I thought that was really nice to have that whole list. It's a couple of pages long of which ones are there. I definitely want to do that, especially now that spooky season is upon us. So it's like, maybe this will help. But I thought I like it.
Okay. So I thought there were definitely some valuable like insights here that would be useful for indie authors that I kind of knew already. But some of the things I wanted to kind of touch on were like the process of getting reviews is also building your readership at the same time, which I really think that is an important note to take away, because if you are, trying to connect with readers so that they'll leave you a review, if you build that relationship right, then they may stay a reader for a long time. And then the thing that I thought was kind of interesting was what Bethany had kind of said, that she notes that Amazon has said the threshold for getting a more visibility on Amazon platform is that 15 review mark, which almost everybody I've heard talk about this said that Amazon has never said what that threshold is. So I'm wondering where that number came from, and she didn't have like a notation for that information. So I'm curious about that. The general consensus is that you should break into double digits within the first week of your book being launched in order to give it the best visibility. So at least 10 is what I've heard the most. It's not the only one. I've also heard that the reviews is really the big one to get to, but everybody has said that they don't really know. So I'm interested to figure out where she got that number 15 from. So I want to find that. And then something also that I didn't know, and I wonder at what level this is, but she's mentioned how libraries and book retailers rely on trade reviews to know if a book is worth stocking. And I know that there is a lot of podcast episodes, YouTube videos that talk about getting your book into libraries, and no one has ever said this before. So the fact that people are getting their books into libraries and they're not talking about trade reviews, it doesn't mean that they don't have them, but it could mean that they don't have them and they are still getting into libraries. So then I'm wondering the veracity of the statement. So it makes me want to dig more into it and find out. And she says they rely on that. It feels like it's a very definitive statement, not like maybe this will have a strong influence or something like that, but no, they rely on it. So I'm kind of interested in that. All right. So in the past, have you guys used any of these strategies that she mentioned mentions in the book about getting reviews endorsements, and how effective do you think they were?
So I had some ARC reviewers, like ARC readers of my collection that did do reviews once it went live. That's how I realized the must have an Amazon account for 6 months and spend at least $50 in a year. Because one of mine doesn't buy anything on Amazon, so she couldn't put her review, but she could put it on Goodreads. So that was an interesting caveat of who can leave reviews. I have done that. I had asked for reviews when I gave the ARCs out and gave suggestions on sites that could have reviews put on them, but I never followed up. So that's something that I could have done more. Initially, I was going to do the whole booktuber thing where you submit your book to different booktubers to review, as is stated in this book. But I had been watching booktubers, and some of them were saying that it's really weird when somebody like hunts down how to contact you to send you their book, and that it made them uncomfortable. So it was like, I don't know. I guess it just depends on the reviewer. So
I think when it comes to booktube, I think it might be better to like establish a relationship first before saying, hey, I just got a new book that came out that's in the genre I read. Would you be interested in a free copy of it?
Right.
That's kind of what I thought. And so I told myself I was going to do the same thing. I was going to start trying to make relationships with booktubers, and I just never did it. So yeah, same thing. I thought I was going to do that. Didn't do it.
Right.
Yeah, so she has a section on there about TikTok, and I think that it's pretty intimidating for people that are not familiar with the platform, but a lot of what she says with TikTok also works with Reels, so it's okay. But I, in the last year, have been experimenting with that, and it's been good. I've connected with a few people, been able to send my books out, and I always have like a reason, like, oh, like it's the book birthday, like if you want a free copy, let me know. I would love a review, but I don't think I do. I don't think I sent it out as formally and as professionally as she suggests. So it was a good reminder to kind of elevate my game a little bit. And then full disclosure, I've never paid any site for reviews, so I can't really speak to her recommendations with that. And again, if you're on a budget, like we all are to some degree, I don't know what your budget is, but we all have something. There are a lot of free things in this book that you can try and do. So TikTok was one where I was like, yeah, I know a lot of this information, but you're right. I probably could have sent this a little bit more formally, and then I could have had that follow-up email that she talks about as well. And again, she gives you examples, so you're not like stuck trying to write copy of like, how do I beg for a review without sounding like I'm begging, So there's that.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat where I take part in, say, Voracious Readers, where I get a whole bunch of potential readers, obviously, who I send copies of my book out to and ask them to review it. They're under no obligations to do it. I'm one of dozens. I actually recognized a name that I received, so I asked her a whole bunch of follow-up questions about how she feels about using the service, and it's largely what I thought, where she gets 1 to 2 to 10 books each week, and she just sort of picks one at random, whatever looks most interesting. She'll read it. She might review it. She doesn't get through a lot of them, but it's nice, and she tries to help out when she can. So a lot of these services, you get in what you put out, where if you are following up with those readers, then it might nudge them more to try and actually follow through with reading your book and then leaving a review.
Yeah, I think that speaks to the whole what she was talking about with the readership, that if you getting book reviews can help with your readership if you can make that connection and follow up with them. Yeah. All right. So next, did the book influence you to possibly change your approach to seeking reviews and endorsements? And I think we might have kind of covered that question already a little bit. Do you guys have anything different that you want to add or something new?
I plan to be a little bit more formal with it and definitely do those follow-ups, because I think that's where I drop the ball the most, where I say, hey, here's my book, please review it. Here's an easy way to do it. Here's a link. You're under no obligations to do it, but I would really appreciate if you did. And then Shanon, you actually provided me a really great template, a month ago now, maybe, about, hey, follow up, and then just be like, hey, friendly reminder, I sent you my book a while ago. Please, if you liked it, if you read it, please review it. If you haven't read it, here's the link again. And then that's kind of just where, you let them do whatever they want. So don't be pushy, but do be sure to follow up.
Yeah, I agree. I think the main thing that, to sum up, this book was inspirational in the sense of I need to be asking and getting out there. And that includes follow up, which is uncomfortable, but necessary.
Well, I mean, one thing that I would say that I think I only give you the one template for the one email, Ben, but I have a series of emails that I send my voracious readers and those who I know are coming on board because they're reading Blood of the Lily, which is my first book. And it includes, hey, by the way, just want to check in, see if you got the link. If not, here it is again. And I will get responses to that email. I'm like, oh, I forgot about this. Thank you for telling me about it again. So that, they forget, they get the link, and, like Ben was saying, if they get 2 to 10 books a week, they're going to forget that they asked for your book. So it's a good way to say, hey, by the way, just in case if you didn't see it last or whatever, I don't remember what the wording is, but here's the link again. And then my next email, I talk about what I loved about writing that book and some of the things that I did research on and what I found fascinating about the research. So I try to connect my love for the story to them, or try try to, I try to make that connection so that they can feel it, hopefully, if you're doing a good enough job as a writer. But of course, your message is not going to reach everybody, because we don't reach everybody. But I definitely do think that that's important. And then I think I continue on, because then I talk about my favorite character to write and how my husband just didn't get the character. So I added that in there. It's like a personal note. But whenever I thought he was funny, I told my husband about the scene, and he'd be like, that wasn't that funny. I'm like, oh. So I've had a reader respond and say, no, I thought he was funny. I thought the leprechaun was funny. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm not the only one here. So yeah, I do think the follow-up is important in establishing that good readership. And you can do that even if you're not using voracious readers only. You could do that with anybody that you're reaching out to for as an art reader. And I don't think I said what strategies I've used and how effective they were. And I've used some of the book review sites that she talked about. She talked about Story Origin. And then she also talked about prolific works. But I think in the one section, she only mentioned Story Origin. Then the next section, she talked about Story Origin, Book Funnel, and prolific works. And those are the three I hear the most. They're book review sites, where as an author, you can sign up and you're offering your book in different ways. You actually use those sites in different ways. But for book reviews specifically, you can get a team going on there. They will get a copy of your book and then they will review it. And I don't think she mentions this. I think it's important to remember that there's only a small percentage of people you give your book to who actually review it. Even if they're getting it with the purpose of reviewing it, it's a very low number. I think it was between 10 and 20% last time I heard. But I don't know if you guys have heard anything different. And then I don't know if the book didn't really influence me to change what I'm doing currently, but maybe to add, because I've never done try to get a Kirkus review, which you can get a Kirkus review as an indie author. But I think I do want to try maybe one of these days to do something along these lines, but they're expensive. And I want to make sure I have a good solid book before I offer it to them. Not to say that my books are bad, but I think we are always thinking we can be a better writer than we are at the moment. So if I see that I have a book that I feel is really, really good and people are responding to it the same way, then I really think I want to do that. And that I'll be able to keep this book on hand because I can use the template to send my notes out to people. So yeah. All right. Was there anything about the book that surprised you?
I thought it was surprising how easy the format was to read it. Yeah. That was nice. And just the can-do attitude was nice. Like, you can ask people for endorsements. You can do it. Even if this is your first book and you've never been published before, like, here's a little roadmap of start following people. Just ask. Just go for it. And so I think that's something that I want to implement in my next one, is actually trying to do the endorsement process of getting one. Would be really cool. I thought it was surprising how thorough the lists were, how inclusive they were of multiple genres. So it wasn't all fantasy. It was fantasy, romance, horror, sci-fi. It was a well-rounded list. So that was very nice.
I thought there would be a little bit more information about audiobooks and a little bit more about the differentiation between print and ebook. She did go into the details of sending out ebooks. Don't always send out paperbacks. Here's how I would send out paperbacks and whatnot. But I thought there'd be a little bit more data behind you get more reviews with ebooks because you probably sell more ebooks. It's more accessible. The links you can just hit. But we didn't really get into any of that. And then we had one little section on here's how you can send out audiobooks. And I thought we would get just a little bit more from a pretty established author. But I also know that audiobooks are kind of a newer thing as well. So yeah.
I was surprised with the wide range of topics coming, and that it specifically distinguished between certain types of reviews. Because I knew about trade reviews that sort of funnel into, say, this isn't really a thing anymore, but scholastic events at schools and libraries and all that. But I never really considered that was different that I should apply a different type of strategy in getting those than I should with just getting regular reviews. So kind of changing my mindset to be more focused on what I'm trying to obtain was really, really surprising and helpful for me.
The one thing I thought was surprising was that she included a lot of links to her personal free resources. I have not had a chance to check them all out yet, but I was like, oh, wow. Okay. This is just freely given. And we'll include some of them down in the description box below because I think some of them are interesting. So, all right. Was there anything you disagreed with in the book and why? And I know, Ben, you disagree with quite a bit. So let's start with you, if you don't mind.
Okay. So one thing that I really disagree with is the suggestion to perform cold email endorsements. I can say that from a professional standpoint, I routinely receive things like that, and they are 100% trash. I have actually laced misspelled versions of my name into the general internet. And so whenever I see somebody emailing me with a misspelling of my own name, I can know that they did not do their own research. I can know also if they say that they reviewed a copy of my resume, I know that they're either lying or they purchased it from some subsidiary, because I have not submitted or updated my resume in quite a few years. So I know that everything that they are saying anything beyond that point is they're just trying to see me as a dollar bill. And that's a nice way of putting it, aside from just general spam, which is a lot of fun to mess with. I do, yeah, whatever. Yeah. So when I've messed with spam callers before. It gets very fun when you know what you're doing and how to do fun things with yours. But anyways, where it's relevant here, I also listen to Writing Excuses, which used to star and still does. They have Brandon Sanderson on there. They have Dan Wells, Mary Antoinette Kowal, and a few other like really big names. And they've talked about this specific topic before, where people come up to them and say they'll just hand them a book, or they won't put much thought into it. And even if they do put thought into it, like, hey, you wrote this book, or I saw you at this conference for all of a minute, and here's my book, please read it, let me know what you think. Like, they have thousands of those, and there's no way they could possibly read through the book. If they are getting a book, I mean, it's very unlikely that they will even get a chance to read it for enjoyment, let alone say something nice about it. So even among friends, like, they've had this conversation between Brandon and Dan Wells before, where they've been friends for years and they're still uncomfortable asking the other person to read and review their book. And if they do happen to have just read their book, then they'll be happy to say something nice about it. But just the idea of cold emailing somebody whose name that we would recognize and put on our book, I mean, we might as well just ask like my grandmother to put an endorsement on there, because that will be much more meaningful than to just submit to somebody famous and say, hey, I recognize your name, let me put it on my book, here's 5 stars. And to build off on that, there are books that I've read with George R. R. Martin's seal of approval on the cover, and I've read the books and been like, well, I know that I do not agree with George R. R. Martin's taste, and if I see that on a book, I know I don't really need to read that book. So there are multiple reasons why there's an entire section about cold emailing or getting cold endorsements that I just fundamentally disagree with.
Yeah, I have to agree in the sense of like working in like the marketing world in a previous life. It's a risk, and you are kind of opening yourself up to some unsavory characters. And she briefly in the book touched on some scammy sites. She touched on one, but they're out there all the time. If you post anything on your book and you get the right hashtag, you are flooded with DMs and comments about promote it here, pay me, I'll promote it. And you just got to be careful. And I think in the end, I was trying to look for what she said, because it was kind of profound in the sense of, oh, it's this one. She said, build your community, and that community will become your anchor, your cheerleading squad, and the megaphone to the world. And all of that starts with reviews. It's like, okay, build your community. Where does that start? Not by someone's random inbox. I mean, maybe, but probably not. So just, I think authenticity wins out. And I think she went at it from a very business mindset, which I can respect, but I think you can tell the authentic reviews from someone being paid. So I don't know, just food for thought. I'm with you there. I get where you're coming from.
Sorry, can I just clarify? I'm talking about getting endorsements from like famous people, not just sending my, hey, random person in my newsletter, like, here's a book. Just check it out. So
that's different, because like with the newsletter, like you might not know that person at all, but they're there because they want to be there, or they signed up for something. There's at least like a crumb of interest. But it's the big name authors. And I read an article about it was a couple of years ago, so I'm sure it's changed, but it talks about how those big name authors sometimes don't even get through the whole book because they're on such strict deadlines. So it's like, is this like cherry picked review even real? And in the end, like, if I want to read a book, I go to Goodreads or Amazon reviews anyway. Like, so I think they look really great and professional on the cover, sure, but I don't think you need to be wasting so much time and energy with it, unless you like happen to know like V.E. Schwab personally and you can send her that email, like, sure, go for it. But I think focusing on those organic reviews might be a better use of time.
I think it's interesting. Sorry, Laura, I know you want to jump in here. I think it's interesting that you said that you go to the Amazon or Goodreads reviews, because that is a point that she makes, that most people, when they go to buy a book, they go to look at the reviews, which is the whole point of the book existing. It's important as authors to get those reviews.
Yeah, I don't really have much to add at this point. Yeah, just very thorough. I have seen people being reluctant about responding to cold calls, and I do get the flood of DMs on Instagram of, hey, I will promote your book on my feed, and it's like, no. I've seen too many breakdowns on how these are scammers, and a lot of their, like, there was a whole breakdown by Alexa done in a video about how she did a deep dive, and like all of the people that were listed as employees of this review place didn't really exist. Like, she checked the LinkedIns and they were all bogus. So it was insane. But so being cold called for them to coming to you has felt pretty pretty scammy. And so us cold calling other people also must be a little off-putting, to say the least. So I need to find the spaces where people that I enjoy their stories are, so that I can gain a rapport with them and just have an organic relationship with them before anything business ever possibly happens. That's not the end goal. The end goal would be to have that relationship first.
And that's not to say that like you have to know every single personal reviewer ever. It's more of like, are you finding your niche and the right people? Are they finding you? Are you following up with them? It's not like a chase down anyone with anything. Like there has to be just like a little bit of interest. And I felt like when we were talking about essentially just sending this random famous person a request, it feels disingenuous. But if it made it into her book, obviously like something about that works and worked. And I don't know if it's just because she's a higher level and has these accolades, or if that advice really isn't applicable to us smaller fish just starting out. That wasn't really addressed. So if you have no ethical qualms with it, like I say, go for it, see what happens. For me, I feel funny about it. That's just me though.
Yeah,
I don't want to know how many emails Stephen King gets on, please review my book.
But yeah, I would say that's one thing that she didn't really include in the book, that I don't know if she's experienced it or she does, but it's not something she checks. Like if she might have like an admin person who does it. But I noticed that when I published my first book, I got a ton of IG messages, a ton of emails, and I still get them saying, hey, I want to read, I'm a college student, I'm on summer vacation, I would love to review your book. And I kind of, I'd say fell, but not really fell, kind of fell for them at first, because I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I can give you a copy of the book. And they're like, well, this is how much I charge. And that's where, of course, I stopped falling, because I'm like, well, no, I'll give you a free copy if you're willing to do a review. That's all. And they're like, no, I charge. I was like, well, if you ever get to the point that you do it for free, you can get back in contact with me. And so now I just have like a little blurb that if someone emails me, says, hey, yes, I would love to provide a free copy of my ebook if you're willing to do a free review for the book. And I leave that. No one ever gets back to me. So I'm like, like Bethany was saying, we all have a budget. You kind of, can't go above your budget. So I try to do as much free as I can.
Yeah, like I enjoy watching horror booktubers videos, and I will be in the comment section. And I've actually been starting to gain a rapport with one in particular, because I will suggest a video and she'll do it, and I'll be like, oh my gosh, like thank you. And then like entering the giveaways, and eventually she's asked, like, am I part of the Horror Writers Association? So like being in the comments, entering the giveaways, giving feedback and things like that in the comment section has helped organically create a relationship that may in the future eventually someday lead to a review.
Yeah. I mean, and I think it is best to think of it as organic as possible. I have no idea how Vanessa on YouTube, she's a booktuber, and her name is Read with Dr. B, and she's a psychologist, and my bachelor's in psychology. So of course I automatically connected with her because she would talk about psychology things and things like that. And I don't know how we got connected. I have no idea how we found each other, but we did. She started coming to my streams. I go to her streams, and before I know it, now I have people buying my book because Vanessa got it. And she was like, this is my newest one. And she started talking about it, and people were like, oh, you wrote a book? I was like, yeah, I've written a couple. Like I did not go out of my way to integrate with them. I was just there supporting her because she was supporting me on my channel. And again, I don't know who found who first. I really don't remember where that started. But yeah. And I was like, it was very organic. And now I have some booktubers who like fantasy romance. I had no idea they even liked fantasy romance, who were like, oh, I'm going to get a copy of the book. Yeah. So being organic like that is helpful. I don't have time right now to purposely do anything. So everything's on accident. Yeah. So suggestions that I might disagreed with. Okay. She had this suggestion, which was on the outside. I don't disagree with it, but for someone who doesn't understand the nuances, they could get into trouble. And if they don't understand what the differences are, which she says those differences sort of in her wording, but it's not clear. So basically she talks about how you can get your beta readers, when you buy some beta readers for your book, you can get them to leave reviews of your book. And if you do like a giveaway or give out small gifts to your beta readers, that might incentivize them. Well, first of all, you cannot incentivize someone to leave you a review. But she connects the incentivizing and gift to beta reader in the same breath that she's talking about getting them to leave a review for your book. So you have to understand those nuances. You can do the incentivizing, the giveaways, giving them a free book, because she says you can give them a signed copy of your book once it comes out, or a small gift at their time, or do a giveaway. You can do all of that for your beta readers, but you can't like get your beta reader to read your book and give you feedback, ask for a review, and then give them a gift, because that could be misconstrued. So it's unethical. It's actually illegal according to Amazon's terms of services that you cannot pay for a review. So I think, again, I don't disagree with this, the way it was set up. If you don't understand those nuances and differences, you could get into hot water with it. So that was my biggest thing, which kind of goes along with the idea that I felt this was a little unclear. It doesn't seem unclear on the outside, but if you're brand new, you don't understand those nuances, it's unclear what the appropriate step would be here. It's fine to get beta readers, give them something, a gift, and then later on, you're like, hey, by the way, my book just came out. My beta readers and alpha readers read my book way early this year. By the time I'm going to be looking for reviewers, it's probably going to be like December or January. So I'm like, hey, by the way, the book is out. If you feel it's within you to leave a review, I would love it if you would do that. I can do that, but I didn't incentivize my alpha and beta readers either. But when I started doing well on my Kickstarter, then I did some giveaways because I put some of the money back into my readers. So I think I gave away two $25 gift cards in each set of readers. So it's $100 altogether. But well, we just have one final question to wrap up the episode. What is the best tip or trick you learned from Linda Stirling's book, How to Get Book Reviews and Endorsements?
One thing that I really liked was just the simple thing of putting an ask at the end of the book, not a begging for it, but a, hey, I'd love to hear your thoughts kind of thing. And reviews help me and encourage me to keep going type of thing. So just a call to action that isn't too pushy might be nice to have at the end of the book, just as a reminder, especially on those like Kindle ebooks where it has the pop-up automatically of like, hey, you can leave a review here. So some readers don't have those pop-ups to leave a review, so having the call to action is nice to have in place of that.
Yeah, I would say the fact that you can reach out and filter by genre the top reviewers on Amazon was something I really wasn't aware of that you could do. And the fact that there were resources to, like templates essentially to use as emails to give books out was interesting and something I'm going to have to play with. Not sure if I'll jump right into that. And then the newsletter reminders and whatnot. But overall, this felt more like a lot of it, like Ben was saying, like we know this, but that's because we've been publishing for years at this point. And we've learned the hard way. So I think this is a really great step in the right direction. But yeah, I definitely pulled out some nuggets of wisdom that I will be willing to try.
Yeah, I think the greatest tip within here is more general based, where it's no matter what, these reviews are imperative to the success of an author. If you look at a book that has 100 reviews and you look at one which has one, I mean, no matter if that is a 5-star review, you're probably going to not pick up that book that only has one. And I really appreciate how the book, this guide, had such a wide spread of different techniques to try. So sure, plenty of them we've tried. They might not work for us. We can tailor them as we need, but there are so many specific suggestions in there and different places to look. And like we mentioned before, there are website review sites for certain genres. Spooky, they had fantasy, they had a bunch of things that caught my eye, which I am definitely going to look into further. So yeah, this book provides a general outlook of why those reviews are so important, and then funnels it down to how we can specifically apply to our own books, whatever genre we're in. We as hosts are in different genres, so we can still find something in there for each of us.
That works, yeah. All right, and I'd say probably the best tip or trick to take away would be when she talks about the bad reviews. Everyone's going to have bad reviews. There are certain ones, though, that she says you should pay attention to, like those that may say something about the book being poorly edited, or where parts of the plot were never followed through, or something that says the chapters are missing, because sometimes you upload a file you think is correct and it's the wrong file. So you definitely want to pay attention to those. Of course, you can ignore reviews that are about like delivery times or pages that fell out because you can't control those things. So I think that was important to take away, that we're all going to have bad reviews, and there's some that you maybe should pay attention to, but you don't have to really pay attention to a lot of them. So yeah. All right. Well, thank you to our guests, Laura and Bethany. We really appreciate the time you guys took to read the book and talk to us about it today. And thank you for coming on the show. I would like each of the guests to do a quick outro.
All right, I'm Laura Nettles. I have a horror collection out called Tiny Shivers, available on Amazon. If you would review, I would be eternally grateful. Yeah, that's me.
I'm Bethany Votaw. I write short fiction and thrillers, and I have fun stuff coming down the pipeline. Thank you, Shanon and Ben, for inviting us to join your show. Love being able to hop in here and talk with you guys. And I'll be floating around. I'm sure I'll see you all around somewhere in the writing verse.
Right. The links for each of our guests are in the show notes for the podcast and in the description box for YouTube. Thank you so much to our listeners and viewers. We don't have a self-publishing tip or trick of the week episode that's coming out this week because this releases on Sunday, but we'll be back on October 24th with the next tip or trick of the week. And on November 15th, our book review episode will be on 7-Figure Fiction, How to Use Universal Fantasy to Sell Your Books to Anyone by T. Taylor. If anyone listening would like to join us reviewing the book, we do have a new email address. You can write to us at selfpubishingtipstricks@gmail.com. That is without the and. That will also be in the show notes and the description box on YouTube. And with that, we'll wrap up this episode and we'll say goodbye. Bye, everyone. Yay.